Ladies and gentlemen, after a wonderful previous session, it is now time to move on to the next topic of discussion. In the words of Franklin D. Roosevelt, we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. Climate change and protection of planet Earth for the survival and the future well-being of all humanity and species has increasingly become a global concern. While all of us need to take greater individual and collective responsibility, it has been recognized that the development of policy and its implementation must involve the current young generation as overseers of the future. And young students must be placed at the center of the climate change discourse. To discuss this topic further, I would now like to introduce our two distinguished speakers for the same. The first speaker for this session will be Mr. Patanjali Jha, IRS, former Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax and Food Farming Proponent. Before I call upon Sir to address the gathering, let us have a look at the introductory video.
After serving as a tax administrator for over 35 years, Mr. Jha retired as the Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax Mumbai on July 31, 2021. Prior to this, he was holding the post of Director General of Income Tax Investigation Wing, Bengaluru, for the state of Karnataka and Goa. Sri Patanjali is one of the senior most officers of the department and had worked in Mumbai, Bhopal, Indore, Bengaluru, and Gwalior, and has wide experience of different verticals in the income tax department like administration, investigation, assessment, and TDS. Sri Patanjali is passionate about natural farming. He is a founder of Vanya Organic, a widely acclaimed food forest initiative, also working extensively for the regenerative farming for almost 2 decades as an ecological solution.
With this, I would now like to invite Mr. Patanjali Jha to address the gathering. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And without much ado, I must admit I'm a reticent speaker. But of the few hundred webinars in the town hall meeting, I prize this as the most important one in my life. I shall elaborate how this August gathering can become the harbinger of hope, not only for our country, but worldwide. As I said, a reticent speaker, this was our journey, family's journey, the spiritual journey, in which suddenly about 7 years back, I realized that this is one solution which can meet so many things. We shall be looking at this. With these, without much ado, let's start the conversation, as I like to call it. This German philosopher so rightly said, hardest thing to see is what is in front of your eyes. Whole world knows that we need more trees. We are not doing enough. And as a result of which, the current IPCC report is only a pointer. We knew it all along, but now it is code red for humanity. No way that the next generation can survive with the efforts that we are doing, the world is doing currently. But the important things of them being that in the next 2 decades, the threshold limit of 1.5 degree temperature would be breached. The Arctic ice is going to be melting at a speed which has not happened in the past 3,000 years. The sea level rise is maximum in the past 1,000 years. The greenhouse gases, in particular the carbon dioxide, is at its maximum into millions of years. There are many things which have become irreversible. So, but things are not so despondent. I'm not saying, for God's sake, that this is the only method, all other measures, but this can become one of the most important effect of reversing the global warming. We'll see how. The regenerative agriculture could help reverse global warming. Dr. Ratan Lal, one of the most credible names, who's a recipient of World Food Prize, an equivalent of Nobel Prize in this area, says so rightly that a mere 2% increase in organic carbon content of the planet's soil could offset 100% of greenhouse gases emissions going into the atmosphere. Friends, this happens because soil is the second largest depositor of carbon after the oceans. So what we practice is a no-till, permanent, multi-layer food forest inspired by Masanobu Fukuoka, who wrote this book, One Straw Revolution, which would have influenced 500,000 most brilliant minds across the universe. I am one of them who's not brilliant, but I understood what he was trying to say. So this is a no-till. By tilling, you are releasing the carbon, which is trapped inside the soil, into the atmosphere. Not only carbon, then other greenhouse gases, methane, nitrous oxide, all these gases remain into the atmosphere for something like 70 to 200 of years. So in fact, what our Prime Minister so rightly said in Glasgow, that it's a matter of equity. Whatever we are suffering now in the past 70 years of industrialization is the result of the advanced countries who in their process of development have released so much of greenhouse gases at that point of time, effect of which is still being felt now. So that is absolutely correct. Equity, so those who are responsible for it should bear the expenses of this. But at the same time, somehow we have this misnomer that development can come only at the expense of environment. Absolutely wrong. What I'm trying to elaborate and would request you at the end, that how we all can together be the harbinger of hope. This is the simple innovation. As I said, no-tilling. By no-tilling, we are doing a dual attack on the global warming. One, we are not releasing the carbon into the atmosphere. On the contrary, through the photosynthesis, we are putting the carbon dioxide inside the soil. The more the carbon the soil has, the more productive the soil will be. The simple innovation is grow 2 trees together. Here in this case, this is our farm. Left-hand side is the moringa tree and the right-hand side is the bay leaf tree. In the same picture at 2 different heights. So the moringa tree goes up and it has tiny leaves which allows the sunlight to filter. And the other tree, there can be various combinations. It doesn't have to be this combination, but moringa is very interesting. Agastya is very interesting. Coconut is very interesting. All these trees go and attain a different height, and beneath that, many other things can be grown. But why only these 2 trees? Surround them with vetiver. We'll spend some minute on vetiver, how again that humble grass can change many things in our country. And surround it with vetiver, which holds the topsoil, which holds the moisture, which purifies, and which puts the recharging of groundwater in the most effective way. Also put the, the underneath of inside the soil, start growing black turmeric. It is magical. We'll show some results of this. As World Bank, WHO says that 10% of India would get cancer in their lifetime. 13 crore, 1 person gets cancer in their life, in a family, everybody gets involved in its struggle. So we are talking a number of 50 crore people joining in the struggle against cancer. What kind of a country are we going to live in? So one is cancer. This simple solution of permanent multi-layer no-till food forest also does not only solve the climate change, as Dr. Ratanlal says, it also solves these problems. So it's good to have a very brief look over it. One is the cancer, as I said. Second, in case your body is alkaline, you eat such produce, it cures cancer and it also prevents cancer. With reasonable authority and absolute humility, I have reached to this conclusion. Second is heat. Again, 1.5 degree looks like bleaching in the next 2 decades. Once you have surrounding of these trees and every inch of soil is covered, we'll see a slide where in 1 year you can bring down the temperature by 2 degrees. And so if every inch of soil is covered, the sunlight does not hit a hard surface and does not bounce back into the atmosphere. No science more basic than this. So first is cancer, two is heat, third is water. Everybody knows all our ancient river systems are dying. Any river which passes through a city takes shape of a nala, and underground water has gone to incredible levels, which is not fit for drinking. So with these forests in place, we recharge the groundwater. That is another thing. In Atharva Veda today, only somebody had forwarded it to me. Even in OECD, they say that in case if we cannot take care of our soil, the humanity will cease to exist. This is the gist of that. Our ancestors had known it 4,000 years back, that how important is the soil. Very few of us understand. Greatest of civilizations have been lost, not due to the war, but due to the deforestation and removal of the grasslands. And we are committing the same folly, and as a result of which we have reached this level. The fifth is job, unemployment. Every month, 10 lakh people become employable in our country. No manufacturing, no service sector can provide employment to them. Our method, and we in this endeavor is a group of friends. For the past 6 to 7 years, we are working towards it. If you combine this permanent multi-layer food forest, which throws surplus biomass, after the need of human beings, after the need of our cattle, and the remaining biomass goes into compressed biogas, clean energy. Government's current policy is fantastic, which is inviting 5,000 such units to be put all across the country, involving an expenditure of 2 lakh crore, and it is hugely profitable. So within that area, our surplus biomass goes into this clean energy, and the resultant residue is organic fertilizer. So we get rid of all the chemical fertilizer, pesticide, herbicide, fungicide, all of that. As I popularly say, coming back to what is multi-layer permanent food forest, it basically, this is a very representative picture. This is my son's less than 1 acre of farm. The picture was taken when it was 1 year old. We cannot see an inch of soil visible to us. Everything is covered. That is possible in year one. This is what I'm going to be urging you to have such demonstration within your school, within wherever it is possible, which is visible, which in the peak of summer, please see the temperature on such a patch of land and outside. The difference is so vivid and clear that it makes a very potent case for this to be adopted in a large scale. We'll again discuss about that in towards the conclusion. And so this, what we recommend, what our permanent multi-layer no-till, no poison food forest is all about. The top layer is moringa tree. On the periphery, we have neem trees, and neem is laden with guduchi or neem giloy. It's the best immunobooster on earth. There would be some vested interest which would try to make you believe that it makes your liver fail or some such thing if you eat the wrong thing, Tinospora crispa, which is a lookalike this. Trust me, no child would ever die because of dengue in case if he's having either the kada or the just chewing the neem giloy. So wherever there is a neem tree, there is always a very strong force to put this guduchi or the neem giloy on that neem tree. So on our farm, on the periphery, we have neem and laden with guduchi. This is the guduchi, and the right-hand side is black turmeric. And inside the farm, our moringa trees have grown to a height of 70 feet, 80 feet in a no-till farm. Incidentally, we also do not give any even organic pesticide, not needed in the forests. Who goes and gives all this nonsense? It's creating biodiversity. The innovation, as I said, is the vertical space is vacant. Let's go up. So as in the first picture, I had shown two trees growing together. Now this is proven. BBC has made documentaries where plants speak to each other, communicate to each other, help each other in their illnesses. And in such a situation, they are very happy together. And so suddenly, in case if done on a large scale, we are talking of 100% productivity being up, especially when you surround it with vetiver and put something inside the soil and put a vine of, say, a pan or a shatavar or passion fruit, anything. The productivity is 3 times higher. The earlier Planning Commission Vice Chairman Monte Caluvalia used to say that if your agriculture can grow by 30%, you could be achieving 7 to 8% growth year after year. We are saying 100% growth is possible. This is the vetiver root. We would again discuss this and its efficacy in carbon sink. Coming back to this multi-layer food forest, as I said, that moringa, beneath that is citrus. Our citrus have grown to a height of 50 feet. And this lemon is an amazing thing to turn your body alkaline. If your body is alkaline, you would never get cancer. And even if you get a cancer, all of us have cancerous cells, but it will not go beyond. It will not become, a problem for our body to handle. These are the real pictures from our forests, food forests. Moringa is this is a 5-year-old our food forest in Bihar. My father-in-law's ancestral property, and the left-hand side is the Gandharaj lemon. Our friends from Bengal would know this. And lemon grown like this without any pesticide, without any spray of or any urea or anything, is magical, not only in its flavor, but also for its medicinal properties. When you squeeze it and put the lemon peel inside, it has lemonade, which is very good for turning your body alkaline. Also, I'll also briefly discuss how vetiver root can be consumed by the human beings with water. In the winter times, in corona times, boil the vetiver and drink this water. This turns your body alkaline, and this has a power to purify water. So the filthiest river in Indonesia, Sita Rao River, they have started planting vetiver on the sides of the river, and I have given those links in the in this presentation, which I would be requesting Suparno to share it with all of us. There you see how vetiver can purify the filthiest of water. So body is what? 70% water. So in case you drink vetiver water during winters in warm water and in the summers in earthen pitcher, so the destruction which RO water is causing by, destroying the minerals, it comes back with the help of this. And also it detoxifies, helps in all kinds of illnesses. So again, we will come back how this vetiver is magnificent. It is a perennial grass, the best example of bioengineering, and it does something like 1.5 kg of carbon sequestration per square meter. Per kilometer, 1,500 tons. So we together we gifted Eco Task Force. We worked very closely with this part of the Indian Army at 8 different locations. This is Gangaji, and they're going to National Geography is going to be covering this. The then Major General heading Dev Chaturvedi, we are working very closely now also. He has also retired and has joined Tata Group of company as an independent director. This is Marathwada, is among the 7-8 different locations that we gifted vetiver. In 3 years' time, the wildlife came back. This was one of the toughest terrain that you see those pits. They are known as the Zai pits. In Africa, they're doing this. By that, you trap the water, and vetiver loves that and holds the moisture, and also the roots go very deep inside the soil. It has tensile strength of steel. So brilliant for carbon sink. They multiply 10 times. We'll see that the commanding officer of Marathwada sent me a message that he got it checked in Marathwada how much carbon sink is vetiver doing, and it was 175 tons at one place. So multiplied. This is the message which I had received 2 years back, mind you. So 7 such locations, close to 1,300 tons, and every year it multiplies on its own by 10 times. So by this time already doing not less than 1 lakh ton. This is the magnanimity and the power of Mother Nature and our great Indian Army. So I don't rate our school principals, our children any less. But the whole of Himalaya is crumbling. The landslides and everything. This is a humble grass, which has as I said, the lifespan of 100 years. The best example of bioengineering. The World Bank supports this humble grass. China uses it in a great way. This is the video of our farm. Very briefly, we'll run it and to just have a idea. This was a barren land. My parents went and lived there. My mother is no more. I recently lost her. And they lived in this desolate place, and there was nothing which was growing there. And now it is lush green, and it has become almost a pilgrim station for anyone who wants to adopt this. And proof of concept is not, there's currently about 500 such farmers who are the purists and who are doing this. And I would elaborate towards the end how such movement can really find a fillip with your support. So this is our farm, and since the time available is short, I would not, this is available in the presentation. You can see this. It's a multi-layer, 6-7 layers of, crops can be grown, and which automatically makes it very biodiverse. So completely biodiverse, this thing, no need for any chemical fertilizer, pesticide, herbicide, fungicide. This is our farm where temperature now is 15 degrees lower. And this is in state of Madhya Pradesh, in Khargone district, where the temperature goes in the peak of summer to 50 degrees, where birds die because it goes to 50 degree and stays there. And on our farm is the best host for all the birds, bees, as I popularly say, because we ensure that there are flowers. Have we heard anyone talking of bees in our country? Because they are so important. Bees are responsible for 70% of our food, vegetarian and non-vegetarian, directly or indirectly. 90% of the pollination is done by the bees. All they require is flowers. So a little bit of careful thinking of, ensuring that they have the food around the year, and some water is what they need. And in turn, the minimum productivity of your farm or place goes up by 30%. Minimum. So, and this is next to Narmada Ji. So more of such farms can come, and it supports the river system, it recharges the groundwater, lowers the temperature, and we will just see very briefly that how people are getting cured of cancer, of rheumatic arthritis. These are highly, highly curable things, and so many people are suffering for no rhyme or reason. Just because we were a slave for so long that they brainwashed us to believe that the only science is this science, the other science. I'm not saying that everything is wrong with allopathy or the current medical system, but our scriptures and our herbs deserve a much greater serious look. This is what I believe. This is a very, this was an admiral whose son had a relapse of blood cancer. So I'll just read this. I just wanted to inform you that my son PET scan was done today and he has recovered completely. This is the power of, the vetiver water, the lemon peel and the turmeric, so special. Now we have started growing the black turmeric, which is very high in camphor content and curcumin content, which can again effectively handle our cancer, the sum total of it all. If your body is alkaline, repeatedly I'm saying you would not get cancer, because it's so important for no rhyme or reason, for small things. And if we eat clean, so this is a grandfather of organic, because one is not tilling the soil. And even if you're an organic farmer, if you're tilling the soil, you're releasing the carbon into the atmosphere. Please try to understand. Agriculture is 30% responsible for the greenhouse gases currently. There is a link of this thing which I have given on Netflix, Kiss the Ground. Have a look at it. NASA has pictures of the tilling time, how the the greenhouse gases are at its maximum when the tilling time comes. So they are talking of, there is almost a small movement or a movement building up in the West But I feel that what we practice, being an Indian, Jugaad is at its maximum. We all are small, average land size is small. Yeah, this is an important thing. Come back to this. Yeah, the agriculture, Chiang Rai Institute did a very simple research. Chiang Rai is the place where, children were trapped in that cave in Thailand. So they did a simple research of covering one imli plant with vetiver and one without vetiver. Just see the difference. It's so simple. So surround anything that you're growing. So surround why one plant? Try surround two plants together. So our productivity, if done on scale, is 200%. And vetiver research so grown and without poison. The root again, I maintain. If you drink that water, all the side effects of the RO water is negated. And so these simple things can be extremely, extremely health effect your immune system. COVID has only shown us the way. There would be many more this thing because Arctic ice is melting. There would be newer and newer virus. This was, I don't know, a man-made this thing, but there would be other things which would be happening because IPCC report says that in the world now the extreme climate is occurrences would happen, more fire, more cyclones, more prolonged drought, and very intense rains in very short period of time. Also regarding this, we'll show you picture in Bihar, in Purnia, where my father-in-law's ancestral property is concerned. When Amphan came, 3 days of incessant rain after that, and everything was flooded. Yeah. So the Ola Vrishti and everything, and submergence. And the next day, within 2 days, yeah. Can we show the next picture? Yeah, everything is gone because we have not tilled. The soil is like a sponge. It is because of the earthworms, because of the activity. This soil has life. Atharva Veda and Rig Veda and Fukuoka, the Zen master, what he is saying, please try to listen to it. It's not only about some fad of, natural farming or anything. It is a question of survival. And it is productive. It is far more productive than what we have known. People say that the forest would take time to grow. How will a small farmer cope with it? I say a small portion, start with it. Anyone who's growing turmeric, why grow turmeric alone? Grow a tuar. Above that, they work very well. Why only tuar and turmeric? Grow a moringa on top of it. Why grow only these three? Grow a subapul on top of that. So he would have his indhan, he would have his full wood, he would have his nourishment, he would have health. And on top of it, his productivity is way, way higher. And also grow a papaya, grow a banana, wherever they can grow. Millets are amazing. So, friends, these things work magnificently. Because of the paucity of time, I would not deal with greenhouse gas, the CBG combining this concept with the compressed biogas, which would generate enormous amount of employment. In my considered view, it can trigger off $500 billion economy in this country. This is one development which has no side effect, which is regenerative. It is not sustainable. It is beyond. It can save our lives. So, since I would not really be wanting to be taking away the time of my subsequent speaker, I would only say and urge what, if convinced of this idea of Dr. Ratan Lal, that we have to increase the carbon content of 2 degrees, let's start planting vetiver and small patch of your school. Say 1,000 vetiver, and say if you couple 5, 7, 10 moringa, whatever it can accommodate, and a citrus, a good citrus. Why grow anything? So you all are educated and potential change makers. Grow the best. And beneath that vetiver, above that, these 2 trees, and inside the soil, black turmeric, which is magnificent. And since vetiver multiplies 10 times, make children grow them in their home, on land, on pots, and drink that water. They'll be saving their health, and they will be saving their parents' health. And this can trigger off different things. Wherever you see a neem tree, start planting giloy on top of that. Trust our culture was way, way, very advanced. For nothing we give up on the best of things. Charak Sanhita has a mention of, there was a JNU professor. He perhaps is the best authority on, Charak. So he mentioned that please have this. So this pan is amazing. This is again from our farm on Moringa tree. It is the best this thing to fight osteoporosis. The calcium, this thing among women. Moringa, I'll very briefly discuss because now mostly people know now the West has even the Davos talks of Moringa. So the Moringa leaves are so healthy. Essentially, no child will remain malnourished in case if he has Moringa leaves in his diet. Our Prime Minister eats his paratha with Moringa. And it is extremely, no woman will die while giving childbirth because of lack of hemoglobin. It is so potentially good. And that you give this to someone whose hemoglobin is low and you see the difference in 1 month's time. It is this effective. And it has 92 antioxidant, all amino acid, all essential, 18 amino acid, all 9 essential amino acids. So whatever your body requires, 7 times the vitamin C of orange. And these are the multivitamins. So it's like, wonder food. And world is banking on this. And MIT PhD visited our farm and told us that every farmer grows this moringa, the prices of the drumstick would crash. I said, let it crash, but at least he would be healthy. A poor man's biggest folly today is that if he has to be hospitalized, he has no money. If he eats moringa leaves in his food, and choose on this Guduchi, Neem Giloy, the best immunobooster, and eats clean, he would normally not need to be admitted into a hospital trust. So Ministry of Ayush also talks about these. So friends, in case if you are able to raise this food forest, it lowers temperature, it is regenerative, it recharges the groundwater, it builds the best soil on earth. And any produce which is from such farms, I'll request my friend Anupam to show a few testimony very fast. A few cancer, we said there are rheumatic arthritis, 36 of them who have been cured. And yes, this is my batchmate, Principal Chief Commissioner. Now he's an LCLT member in Ahmedabad, KK Singh. His fatty liver became normal. Another Joint Commissioner, Additional Commissioner, his sister. RA from 27, it came down to 9. This is the power. Oxford University has research that the raw turmeric is very good for your PSA levels. And also for rheumatic arthritis, it's a known, and 7 crore people suffer from this. Incidentally, moringa leaves are also very good for diabetes. So we have become a diabetic capital of the world. And all these things can bring great health to human being, health to Mother Earth, and ultimately for us to survive. I urge you all, please start experimenting with this, small things in your school. Teach children that they have to take this into their hands, because we are talking of our children, your children, to inherit earth. At this rate, they would not survive. I'm very sure of this. We cannot leave it to the governments. We cannot leave it to this thing. Here is a Ratan Lal who says correct things. Here is an opportunity for all of us. Wherever possible, let's start practicing this, which should necessarily be no-till, which should necessarily have whatever. Just imagine the full potential of this. So many rivers, so many forests, so many mountains, which can, when done on a scale of your capability, what it can do. So let us empower our children to know that there is a possibility. When done on scale, it can make a world of a difference. I am retired. Without being retired also, I was always free. And this is my mission in life. We take no money from anyone who's suffering in life. And my consultancy is free. And my time is rest of my life I'm going to be devoting on this only. I'm free. I'll be requesting Suparna to share my number. In case if I'm able to convince you of efficacy part of it also to you, get in touch with me anytime. And I'm available to help you. And it is embarrassingly simple to grow a food forest. And from the year one, it is more productive. And when combined with I have a set of friends. I mean, there's one Bombay IT, who I regard as the most intelligent man in my life. He understands CB like no other biggest companies on earth understand. So we are talking to big corporates. I would also urge how we can make the difference, effective differences, by two ways: either start growing or start consuming. I am persuading some of the best corporates in our country to start selling a separate category of such produce as forest produce, no-till produce. And if we consume such produce, say even 1 crore families start consuming these produce, trust me, the number of food forest would jump from the current one to 1,000 times in finite time. So either become a grower or become a consumer if you want to save your life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Patanjali Jha, for this insightful session. You spoke about how students can be empowered to become active change makers, and the youth today, the adults of tomorrow, can definitely take inspiration from you and lead us to a better future. Thank you so much once again. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce the second speaker of this session, Mr. Suparno Banerjee, Senior Director, Outreach and Publications, Environment Education, Center for Science and Environment. Before I call Sir to address the gathering, let's have a look at the introductory video.
Suparno Banerjee is a Senior Director at the New Delhi-based Center for Science and Environment, CSE, one of South Asia's leading environment and development think tanks. He holds a master's degree in English literature and has over 20 years of experience as an editor, journalist, media management expert, and communication professional. At CSE, Suparno heads multiple teams that work on the center's publications, media relations, outreach, and environment education. As a key member of CSE's top management, Suparno has been at the forefront of almost every campaign that CSE has conducted since 2003. Suparno is an amateur photographer and illustrator as well, and lives in Noida.
I would now like to invite Mr. Suparno Banerjee, Senior Director, Outreach and Publications, Environment Education, Center for Science and Environment, to address the audience. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are, sir.
Right. Thank you. So good afternoon to all of you assembled here today. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity of interacting with you on this very crucial and what I believe is a very thought-inducing, thought-provoking topic. How can schools, their students, their faculties, all of you, join in the task of mitigating climate change? We have just heard Mr. Jha, an extremely focused presentation on what role forests can play as sinks, natural sinks for trapping carbon. Before I jump straight into the topic, I think I should say a few words here about the organization that I represent, just to set the context, basically. Many of you might be aware of Center for Science and Environment, CSE. It was set up in 1980 by the late Anil Agrawal, one of India's pioneering environmental thinkers. And over its more than 40 years of existence, CSE has tried to remain true to its calling as a public interest research and advocacy organization, which aims at redefining what we call development. Mr. Jha was talking about this entire dichotomy between environment and development. CSE essentially roots for development which is sustainable and equitable, and not a development that destroys our natural resources, that further impoverishes the poor, and that has a debilitating, polluting effect. One of the key programs that we run in CSE and we support is Environment Education's Green Schools Program, or GSP. We call it GSP. Many teachers in India are already aware of what GSP is because they're part of this network. And GSP is basically directly relevant to our subject of discussion today, as you know, as I go on. Under GSP, we interact with teachers, students, and communities of over 7,000 schools across India to enable an understanding of environment and environmental issues with the focus on learning by doing, as opposed to learning by rote. GSP basically runs on annual audit exercise for schools and their students, which helps them identify how environment friendly or unfriendly are they, and how can they get more responsible. And in fact, we have recently launched an online training program for teachers on the subject of understanding climate change and teaching it in classrooms. So having said all that, let me now essentially come to the question that we are discussing today of how all of us individually and as a community can help mitigate climate change. I will not be taking too much of time. In fact, I'll be happy if we have some questions probably to both Mr. Jha and to me after this session. So just to continue where I have left off, basically, we are looking at discussing this entire issue of how all of us, as I said, individually and as a community can help mitigate climate change. We are more or less familiar with the fundamentals of climate change. Climate change kya hai? Jalvayu Parivartan, and how it is impacting us. But the question here is, do we manage to soak this familiarity, this understanding that we have? Do we manage to soak it in? Do we manage to internalize it, make it a part of the way we live and work? You have to ask that question to yourself. Or do we simply read about it, watch it on TV, or maybe attend seminars and conferences like this and listen to people like me and Mr. Jha, and then continue with our daily lives and existences as before? I saw a lot of comments in the chat, which indicates that a lot of you are very, very keenly interested in what Mr. Jha was talking about, and which is a very, very good sign. It tells me that this internalization that I'm talking about is probably already happening. See, one thing is clear. Until and unless we, each one of us, internalize this knowledge and understanding, this recognition that climate change is real and it is happening, we will never be able to do anything to help. Now, how do we do this? That is the question. Let me take a few examples just to illustrate. Let's take the example of energy. Energy sector jo hai, it accounts for over 73% of all emissions in the world. 73% of all emissions in the world comes from the energy sector. And therefore, this sector is seen as a huge contributor to climate change. By emissions from energy, we basically mean greenhouse gases that are coming out of industries and power plants when these are run. Emissions that are coming out from transport, basically, all the vehicles that we use, all the means of transport that we use to commute, and emissions from buildings, huge emissions from buildings. Basically, the power that we use in our electrical appliances, etc., to live comfortably. ये जो हम घरों में रहते हैं, उसमें जो चीजें हम इस्तेमाल करते हैं, जिसमें बिजली की खपत होती है, उससे जो emissions आ रहा है, उसके use से जो emissions आ रहा है, वो. So my question is, can we in our lives at least ensure that we, in whatever small way, tweak our lifestyles a bit to ensure a low carbon footprint? अभी किसी ने चैट में सवाल ये भी किया था कि how do we ensure that we have a low carbon footprint? There is a lot that we can do. In our buildings, for instance, since I was talking about buildings, let me begin with that. In our buildings, for instance, we can work proactively to reduce wastage of energy by using energy efficient fixtures only. We can progressively opt for more renewable sources of power. There is solar, there is wind, there is hydel. We can advocate building designs which are thermally comfortable and which reduce the use of artificial powering devices. In our travel and transport choices, we could opt for using non-emitting modes of travel, like cycles or rickshaws, or simply walking, instead of driving our personal vehicles, even when we have to go to a neighborhood store for a small purchase. We could carpool for traveling to work or to school. We could opt for public transport or other non-polluting modes like electric vehicles, perhaps, which are gradually catching the fancy. You will see more and more ads coming out for electric vehicles. So these essentially are very small choices that we can consciously make. And from these molehills will emerge a mountain, as the saying goes. Done individually by each one of us, they have the power to make that collective difference to things. But how do we begin persuading our communities, our students, to inculcate such practices? How do we do that? This is where I would like to say an initiative like what CSE is doing, GSP, the Green Schools Program, comes in handy. It allows students to witness and observe firsthand for themselves what is wrong with our lifestyles and what should be our benchmarks. And how can we meet these benchmarks? So let us step out of this business as usual lives and understand how and where we are doing it all wrong. Only then can we begin reimagining our lifestyles. Like Mr. Jha has already started reimagining his, by this excellent example that he put forth before us. So, just to inch towards my conclusion, we have all read and heard about Greta Thunberg. All of you must know about her, this Swedish girl. And many more young people have joined their voices to this demand that the world must stop beating around the bush now and do something about the calamity of climate change that it faces. They have been consistently asking us, we are the elders, they are asking us, what kind of world are we leaving behind for our children, for them? Now, will these voices sustain? ये जो आवाजें उठ रही हैं, ये क्या चालू रहेंगी, ये चलती रहेंगी? Will they remain as strong as we move through these turbulent times? We are currently, living in a time when we have these twin challenges. There is the pandemic on one hand, and there is climate change on the other. I can't say right now whether, these voices of the young will sustain. But my hope, is that these voices will remain strong and in fact become stronger with many more joining them. These voices should become so strident and strong that they're able to reach the boardrooms, offices, and parliaments of our leaders, our parents, our elders, and basically us, and force us into action. The point I'm making here is that our children have it in them to show the way to us who are older, force us into more sustainable pathways. But in doing this, they will need you, essentially, their teachers, to handhold them, guide them, march in step with. I would like to end on that note. I will be happy to take any questions that you may have if the organizers permit, and I'm sure so will Mr. Jha. Thank you so much for listening in. In case if you would like to get in touch with me or with anyone in CSE in future, my direct number and my email is all available with the organizers. We will be happy to work with you to ensure a better world. Thank you. Namaskar. Over to you, Master of Ceremonies.
Thank you so much, Mr. Banerjee. And thank you, Mr. Jha, for being with us and for sharing some insightful information. What I gather from this session, and I would like to conclude for the audience here, like how Mr. Banerjee said, we as a community can come together to mitigate climate change, and how individually we have the power to make a collective difference. With this thought and on this note, I would like to thank both of you for taking time out and for being with us here today. Thank you so much, Mr. Banerjee. Thank you so much, Mr. Jha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.